The cargo bay was cold and quiet. Do-hyun liked it that way. He worked alone most nights, checking the supply crates and fixing small problems that nobody else wanted to fix. The other crew members avoided this part of the ship. They said it was too dark, too lonely. But Do-hyun had grown up in the mountains of Korea, where silence was a friend and darkness was just another part of life. He was tightening a loose bolt when he heard voices coming from the corridor above. The metal walls carried sound in strange ways, and Do-hyun had learned where to stand if he wanted to hear things he was not supposed to hear. "The human," said Commander Tallis. His voice was thin and sharp like breaking glass. "He is the only option left. Commander, we have lost 3 teams already." This voice belonged to someone younger. Nervous. "The Kira have killed everyone we sent down. Exactly why we need a new approach." Tallis paused. "The human will serve as diversionary personnel. He will draw the Kira's attention while the real team completes the mission." Do-hyun's hands stopped moving. He understood what diversionary personnel meant. It meant bait. It meant death. But Commander, he is a crew member. Does he not have rights under coalition law? Quote, "He is a human," Tallis said, as if that answered everything. "Their species is classified as primitive, expendable. The coalition will not ask questions." The footsteps faded. Do-hyun stood alone in the cargo bay, his breath forming small clouds in the cold air. He should have felt afraid. He should have felt angry, but he felt nothing except a strange calm, like the stillness before a storm. The next morning, Yuna found him in the observation deck. She was the only other human on the ship, a scientist who studied alien life forms. Her eyes were red, as if she had not slept. "You heard," she said. "It was not a question." "I heard. Do-hyun, you have to fight this. You have to refuse. They cannot force you to die." He looked out the window at the planet below. Valdris. It was beautiful in a terrible way, covered in thick green jungles that glowed faintly in the darkness. Somewhere down there, the Kira were waiting, the deadliest hunters in the known galaxy. Every team that had landed on that planet had been torn apart within hours. "How long do I need to survive?" Do-hyun asked. Yuna stared at him. "What?" "The mission. How long do I need to keep the Kira busy?" 30 minutes, maybe less." "But Do-hyun, that is not the point. You will die down there." He turned to face her. His eyes were calm, steady, without fear. It unsettled her more than if he had been screaming. "Maybe," he said. "Maybe not." That afternoon, Commander Tallis called Do-hyun to the bridge. The commander was tall and thin, with a body like a stick insect and eyes that never blinked. He looked at Do-hyun the way someone might look at a piece of broken equipment. "You have been selected for a special mission," Tallis said. "You will land on Valdris ahead of the research team. Your job is to create a distraction." "You mean I am bait?" Tallis's antennae twitched. He had not expected the human to understand so quickly. "That is a crude way to put it, but accurate, yes." Tallis did not apologize. "You will be given a blade and a communication device. The timer will be set for 30 minutes. After that, the team will extract. With or without you." Do-hyun nodded slowly. "I understand. You accept?" "I accept." Tallis studied him for a long moment. The other officers on the bridge were whispering to each other. They had expected the human to beg, to cry, to fight, but this one just stood there, calm as still water. "You are either very brave or very stupid," Tallis said finally. Do-hyun smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "On Earth, we have a saying. The mountains do not care if you are brave or stupid. They only care if you survive." That night, Do-hyun did not sleep. Instead, he sat in his small room and read everything the Coalition had ever recorded about the Kira. He studied their hunting patterns, their communication methods, their weaknesses, if they had any. The reports were full of fear. Words like unstoppable and merciless appeared again and again. But Do-hyun noticed something else. Something the Coalition scientists had missed. The Kira did not kill randomly. They did not attack everything that moved. They were selective. Careful. They killed the weak, the panicked, the ones who ran. They killed prey. Yuna came to see him one last time before dawn. She stood in the doorway, unable to speak. Tears ran down her face. "Why are you not afraid?" she whispered. Do-hyun stood and walked to the small window. Outside, Valdris was rising over the horizon. Its jungles dark and waiting. "When I was young," he said, "my grandfather took me into the mountains. We lived there for 3 months, with nothing but a knife and our hands. He taught me many things, but the most important lesson was this." He turned to look at her. "Fear is a choice, and I choose not to make it. The Kira are not like anything on Earth. They are monsters." "No." Do-hyun shook his head. "They are hunters. And hunters respect other hunters." He picked up his blade and tested its weight in his hand. "They think I am prey. That is their first mistake." The shuttle landed at dawn. The door opened, and the hot, wet air of Valdris rushed in like a living thing. Do-hyun stepped out onto the soft ground. Around him, the jungle rose like walls of green and shadow. Strange sounds filled the air. Clicks, growls, the rustle of things moving just out of sight. The shuttle lifted off behind him, leaving him alone. Do-hyun took a deep breath. The hunt had begun. The jungle was alive. Every leaf dripped with water. Every shadow held something watching. The air was so thick and hot that breathing felt like drinking. Most creatures would have frozen in fear. Most creatures would have waited for death. Do-hyun started climbing. His hands found the thick vines that wrapped around the ancient trees. His feet pushed against the rough bark. Within minutes, he was 20 meters above the ground, hidden in the middle layer of the forest where the leaves grew thick and the light turned green. On the ship above, the crew watched his movements through a small dot on their screens. His biosigns were steady. His heart rate was calm. Commander Talus leaned forward, his insect eyes narrowing. "What is he doing?" the commander demanded. "He was supposed to stay on the ground. He was supposed to make noise and draw the Kira out." "He is climbing, sir," said Veka, the young officer. "He appears to be hiding." "Hiding?" Talus struck the console with one thin arm. "He is bait. Bait does not hide. Order him to return to the ground immediately." Veka pressed the communication button. "Human Do-hyun, you are ordered to descend and follow the mission protocol. Please confirm." The speaker crackled. Then Do-hyun's voice came through. Calm and quiet. "No." Talus's antennae stood straight up. "What did he say?" "He said no, Commander." In the jungle, Do-hyun turned off his communicator. He did not need their voices in his ear. He did not need their plans. From this moment on, he would follow his own rules. He moved through the trees like a shadow. His grandfather had taught him this. Move with the wind, not against it. Step where the branches are thick. Never make a sound that does not belong. The jungle was not so different from the mountains of his home. It was wild, yes. Dangerous, yes. But it followed rules. And rules could be learned. After an hour of careful movement, Do-hyun stopped. Below him, on the jungle floor, a creature was hunting. It was the size of a large dog, with 6 legs and a mouth full of needle teeth. Its skin changed colors as it moved, blending with the plants around it. Do-hyun watched it for a long time. Then he dropped. The creature never saw him coming. His blade was in its throat before it could make a sound. It died quickly, without pain. Do-hyun felt no joy in the killing. It was necessary. That was all. He used the creature's blood to cover his own scent. This was an old trick, one that hunters on Earth had used for thousands of years. Predators knew the smell of prey, but they did not attack their own kind. By smelling like a killer, Do-hyun became invisible to the smaller hunters of the jungle. On the ship, Yuna watched his biosigns with growing wonder. He killed something, she said. And now his movement pattern has changed. He is moving faster, more confidently. He got lucky, Talus said. The Kira will find him soon enough. But the hours passed, and the Kira did not find him. Or rather, they did not attack him. Do-hyun could feel them out there, moving through the jungle like ghosts. Sometimes he caught glimpses of black shapes between the trees. Sometimes he heard their strange calls, clicks and whistles that seemed to carry meaning. They were watching him. He was certain of it. As the sun began to set, Do-hyun found a safe place to rest. It was a hollow in a giant tree, high above the ground, with thick walls of wood on all sides. He sat with his back against the trunk and allowed himself to relax for the first time. His mind wandered back to Earth, to the mountains where he had grown up, to the long winters when the snow covered everything and the only sound was the wind. He had spent years in those mountains, learning their secrets, learning what it meant to be alone. Humans were strange creatures, he thought. In the galaxy, they were seen as weak, primitive, a young species with soft bodies and short lives. But the other species did not understand. They looked at humans and saw prey. They did not see what humans really were. On Earth, humans had started as prey. Small, weak, with no claws and no fangs. But they had not stayed that way. They had learned to make tools. They had learned to work together. They had learned to hunt the hunters. By the time humans built their first cities, there was no predator on Earth that did not fear them. Wolves ran from their fires. Lions hid from their spears. Even the great sharks of the ocean learned to avoid the places where humans swam. Do-hyun was not prey. He had never been prey. And he would not start now. The night came, and the jungle changed. The green light faded, replaced by a soft blue glow from plants that fed on moonlight. Strange creatures sang in the darkness, and somewhere out there, the Kira began their hunt. Do-hyun felt them coming before he saw them. The jungle went quiet. The singing stopped. Even the insects fell silent. Something was moving through the trees, with the patience of a nightmare. He did not run. He did not hide. He simply sat in his hollow and waited. A shape appeared in the darkness below. It was massive, at least 3 meters tall, with 6 limbs and a body covered in black armor. Blue lights glowed along its sides, pulsing slowly like a heartbeat. Its head turned, and Do-hyun saw eyes that burned with cold intelligence. The Kira had found him, but it did not attack. It simply watched. Its great head tilted to one side. Do-hyun met its gaze without looking away. He controlled his breathing. He controlled his fear. He let his body say what words could not. I am not prey. I am not afraid. I am like you. The Kira made a sound, low and deep, like thunder far away. Then it turned and vanished into the darkness. Do-hyun released his breath. His hands were shaking, but not from fear. From something else. Something that felt almost like excitement. They were not hunting him anymore. They were studying him. And for the first time in his life, Do-hyun felt like he had found creatures who understood what he truly was. The night deepened. The jungle waited. And somewhere in the darkness, the Kira were making a decision that would change everything. Dawn came slowly to Valdris. The blue glow of night faded, replaced by golden light that filtered through the endless canopy above. Do-hyun had not slept. He had spent the night listening to the jungle, learning its sounds, its rhythms, its secrets. Now he moved again. But this time, he was not running. He was following. The Kira had left a trail. Not a physical trail of footprints or broken branches. Something else. A feeling in the air. A direction that pulled at his mind, like a whisper he could almost hear. Do-hyun did not understand how he knew where to go. He simply knew. On the ship above, the crew was in chaos. Do-hyun's 30 minutes had passed hours ago. The research team had never launched. Commander Talus paced the bridge like a trapped insect, his thin legs clicking against the metal floor. Why is he still alive? Talus demanded. The Kira should have killed him by now. Yuna stood at her console, watching Do-hyun's movements on the screen. He was heading deeper into the jungle, toward a region that the Coalition maps marked as forbidden. The heart of Kira territory. He is not behaving like prey, Yuna said quietly. Maybe that is why. Talus turned on her with fury in his eyes. He is human. Humans are prey. That is their nature. Maybe, Yuna said. You do not understand human nature as well as you think. Deep in the jungle, Do-hyun reached a place where the trees opened into a wide clearing. Ancient stones stood in a circle, covered with glowing marks that pulsed with soft blue light. The air here felt different, sacred. This was a place where the Kira gathered, a place of meaning. He stepped into the clearing and stopped. They were waiting for him. 3 Kira emerged from the shadows. Each one was massive, their black armor gleaming in the morning light. Their blue markings pulsed in patterns that seemed almost like language, but the largest one drew Do-hyun's attention. It was ancient. Scars covered its body like stories written in flesh. Its markings were not blue, but white, glowing with a cold fire that spoke of age and power. The elder, Do-hyun's heart pounded in his chest. But he did not let it show on his face. He stood straight, his blade at his side, but not raised. He met the elder's gaze. Without looking away, the other 2 Kira circled around him, their movements silent despite their size. They could kill him in an instant. He knew this. They knew this. But they did not attack. The elder moved forward, each step slow and deliberate. It stopped less than a meter away from Do-hyun, so close that he could see his own reflection in its dark eyes. Those eyes held something he had not expected. Not hunger, not rage, curiosity. Then something happened that Do-hyun could not explain. A pressure built in his mind, gentle but firm. Images began to flood his thoughts. Not his own memories. Something else. Something alien. He saw hunts beneath strange stars. Packs moving through endless forests. The thrill of the chase. The patience of the wait. The perfect moment of the kill. He felt what it meant to be Kira. The pride. The discipline. The ancient code that separated the hunter from the beast. And he understood what they were asking. The elder was looking into his soul. It wanted to know what he was. Prey that had wandered too far? A fool who did not know he was already dead? Or something else? Do-hyun answered without words. He let his own memories rise. The mountains of Korea in winter. The long hunts with his grandfather. The first time he had tracked a deer for 3 days through the snow. Never stopping. Never losing hope. The moment he had faced a wild boar with only a knife and won. He showed them what a human was. The elder's white markings pulsed faster. The other Kira stopped their circling. A new feeling flooded Do-hyun's mind. Surprise. Interest. And something that might have been respect. The elder spoke. Not in words, but in images and feelings that translated into meaning. You do not cower. You do not run. You do not beg. Do-hyun lowered his blade. Not dropping it. Just lowering it. He held the elder's gaze and let his answer form in his mind. I have never been prey. A long moment passed. The jungle held its breath. Then the elder did something that no one on the ship above could have predicted. It lowered its own head. Just slightly. A gesture of acknowledgement. Between equals. One final image flooded Do-hyun's mind. A pack running together under alien stars. Hunters moving as one. Brothers and sisters of the chase. And then a single word that was not a word, but a concept so pure that it needed no translation. Sibling. Do-hyun's breath caught in his throat. His eyes burned with tears he did not let fall. In all his life, he had never felt so understood. These creatures, these aliens that everyone called monsters, had looked into his heart and found something familiar. They had found a hunter. On the ship, Yuna watched the data with wide eyes. Do-hyun's biosigns were spiking in ways that made no sense. Not fear. Something else. Something closer to joy. What is happening down there? Vecca asked. I do not know, Yuna whispered. But he is still alive. And I think they are talking to him. Commander Tallis had seen enough. This changes nothing, he said. The human has found a way to delay his death. Good for him, but we still need those samples. Launch the retrieval team immediately. Vecca hesitated. Commander, if the Kira are communicating with him, perhaps we should wait. Perhaps there is another way. There is no other way. Tallis turned away from the screen. The human is expendable. The mission is not. Launch the team. Now, in the clearing below, the Elder turned its head toward the sky. Its white markings flashed once, sharp and bright. A warning, something was coming. Do-hyun felt it too. A new presence in his mind. Not the Kira. Something cold. Something wrong. He looked up and saw a shuttle breaking through the clouds, heading toward the jungle. The coalition had come, and they had just made a terrible mistake. The shuttle landed hard, crushing trees and sending birds screaming into the sky. Before the engines had even stopped, the doors burst open, and soldiers poured out. They wore heavy armor and carried weapons that glowed with blue energy. Stun rifles, capture nets, tools designed to take the Kira alive. Commander Tallis had not come to study the Kira. He had come to capture them. From the sacred clearing, Do-hyun watched the soldiers spread into the jungle. There were 12 of them, all Orvani. All trained for combat. They moved in tight formation, their weapons ready, their eyes scanning every shadow. The Elder turned to Do-hyun. Its white markings pulsed with a question. Your pack comes. They carry the tools of trappers, not hunters. What do they want? Do-hyun felt shame burn in his chest. These were his people. His crew. And they had come to cage the creatures who had just called him Sibling. They want to capture you, Do-hyun answered with his thoughts. They think you are animals. They do not understand. The Elder's eyes narrowed. Another image flooded Do-hyun's mind. A memory from long ago. Kira in cages, screaming. Scientists with cold instruments. Pain. Fear. Death. The coalition had tried this before. They had tried to take the Kira apart to learn their secrets. None of those Kira had survived. We remember, the Elder said. We will not be taken again. The other two Kira shifted their weight, ready to move. Ready to kill. Do-hyun could feel their hunger rising. The soldiers below were walking into a trap. They had no idea what was waiting for them, but the Elder did not give the order. Instead, it looked at Do-hyun with something like curiosity. You are Sibling now, but they are still your kind. What will you do? Do-hyun thought about the ship above. About Yuna, who had tried to warn him. About Vecca, who had questioned the commander's orders. About all the crew members who had treated him like dirt because he was human. Then he thought about Commander Tallis. The cold voice that had called him expendable. The insect eyes that had looked at him like garbage. They are not my pack, Do-hyun said. They threw me away. They sent me here to die. The Elder tilted its head. Then help us. Hunt with us. Show us how your kind fights. Do-hyun hesitated for only a moment. Then he raised his blade and nodded. The jungle came alive. The soldiers never saw the attack coming. One moment they were marching through the trees. The next moment, shadows exploded from every direction. The Kira moved like ghosts, their black bodies blending with the darkness between the leaves. Screams filled the air. Stun rifles fired wild, hitting nothing but trees. But this was not random slaughter. Do-hyun ran with the Kira, guiding them with hand signals. He pointed to weak spots in the soldiers' formation. He showed them where the armor was thin. He led them through paths that the Orvani could not see. On Earth, his ancestors had hunted mammoths this way. They had worked together, using intelligence instead of strength. They had brought down creatures 10 times their size with nothing but rocks and patience. Now Do-hyun was doing it again. But this time, his pack was not human. The soldiers fell one by one. Some were knocked unconscious by powerful blows. Some were wrapped in nets, meant for the Kira, trapped in their own weapons. Some simply ran, throwing down their rifles and fleeing into the jungle. Within minutes, it was over. The mighty coalition strike team lay scattered across the jungle floor, defeated without a single death. Do-hyun stood in the center of the chaos, breathing hard. The elder approached him, its white markings glowing with approval. "You hunt well, sibling. Your pack was wise to throw you away. Their loss is our gain." A sound caught Do-hyun's attention, a whimper from the shadows. He turned and saw Veka, the young Orvani officer, cornered against a tree. One of the Kira stood over Veka, its claws raised for a killing strike. "Wait!" Do-hyun called out. He ran forward and placed himself between Veka and the Kira. The creature hissed in confusion. "This one fights against us," it said. "This one is enemy." Do-hyun shook his head. "This one is different." This one questioned. This one doubted the commander. He looked back at Veka, whose eyes were wide with terror. "Let this one live, please." The Kira looked to the elder. A long moment passed. Then the elder made a low sound, and the hunter stepped back. Veka collapsed to the ground, shaking with fear. "You show mercy," the elder said to Do-hyun. "Why?" "Because killing is easy," Do-hyun answered. "Mercy is hard. That is what separates hunters from monsters." The elder considered this. Then it lowered its head in another gesture of respect. "You teach us, sibling. We will remember." A new sound cut through the jungle. Engine noise. The shuttle was trying to take off. Do-hyun's eyes went hard. "Commander Talus." He ran. The Kira followed. They burst through the trees just as the shuttle lifted from the ground. But it was too slow. Damaged by the rough landing, its engines struggled to carry it higher. Do-hyun grabbed a hanging vine and swung. His feet hit the shuttle's open door, and he pulled himself inside. Commander Talus spun around, his thin face twisted with shock. "You," Talus said, "you should be dead." "You were wrong about many things," Do-hyun said, walking forward. "That was only the first." Talus reached for a weapon, but Do-hyun was faster. He knocked the pistol away and pressed his blade to the commander's throat. Outside, the Kira clung to the shuttle's sides, their claws digging into the metal. They were waiting, watching. "They will kill you," Talus hissed. "You are still human. You are still prey." "No." Do-hyun leaned close, his eyes burning with cold fire. "I am their sibling. And you are the prey now." He forced Talus to land the shuttle. The commander had no choice. The Kira surrounded them the moment they touched the ground, their blue markings pulsing with hunger. Do-hyun pulled Talus out and threw him onto the jungle floor. The commander tried to stand, but his thin legs buckled. He looked up at the Kira circling around him, and for the first time, real fear showed in his eyes. The elder stepped forward. It looked at Do-hyun, then at Talus. One final image passed between them. "He is yours, sibling. Your kill. Your choice." Do-hyun raised his blade. Talus closed his eyes. The jungle waited. The blade hung in the air. Talus kept his eyes closed, his thin body shaking like a leaf in the wind. Around them, the Kira watched in perfect silence. The jungle itself seemed to hold its breath, waiting to see what the human would do. Do-hyun looked at the creature before him. This was the being who had called him expendable, who had sent him to die without a second thought, who had looked at humans and seen nothing but tools to be used and thrown away. It would be so easy to end him. One quick motion, and the commander would be gone. The Kira would approve. They understood killing. They respected it. But Do-hyun lowered his blade. Talus opened his eyes, confusion mixing with his fear. "Why?" he whispered. "Why do you not kill me?" "Because I am not you," Do-hyun said. "You see death as the only answer. But I see something else." He stepped back and looked at the elder. The ancient Kira watched him with burning eyes, waiting. "I choose mercy," Do-hyun said with his thoughts. "Not because he deserves it, but because killing him would make me less than what I am. The elder was silent for a long moment. Then something unexpected happened. The white markings along its body pulsed faster, brighter. A feeling flooded through the mental link between them. Not disappointment, not anger, admiration. You could have killed, the elder said. You had every right. But you chose not to. This is what separates the hunter from the monster. You are truly our sibling. Do-hyun felt warmth spread through his chest. He had been understood, not by his own kind, but by creatures from a distant star. Somehow, that meant more than anything. He turned back to Talus. You will call the ship, he said. You will tell them the mission is over. And you will send a message to the coalition. What message? That Valdris is not theirs to take. The Kira are not animals to be captured. And humans, Do-hyun's eyes hardened, are not expendable. Talus had no choice. With shaking hands, he activated his communicator and spoke the words Do-hyun gave him. His voice cracked with shame and fear. But he said everything. The crew of the Starward Mercy listened in stunned silence. And somewhere, in the vast network of coalition communications, the message began to spread. When it was done, the elder approached Do-hyun one final time. It reached up with one massive claw and touched its own chest. A small piece of its armor came loose. No, not armor. A fang, white as bone, carved with glowing marks that pulsed with soft blue light. The elder pressed the fang into Do-hyun's hand. This is our mark, the elder said. Wherever you go, you carry the pack with you. Whoever sees this will know. You are Kira. You are Sibling. You are Hunter. Do-hyun closed his fingers around the fang. It was warm against his skin. Thank you, he said aloud. The words felt small, but they were all he had. The elder dipped its head one last time. Then it turned and walked into the jungle. The other Kira followed, their black shapes melting into the shadows until they were gone. In seconds, there was no sign they had ever been there at all. The shuttle ride back to the ship was quiet. Talus sat in the corner, staring at nothing. The defeated soldiers groaned in their seats, nursing their wounds. Only Veka sat near Do-hyun, stealing glances at him when they thought he was not looking. Why did you save me? Veka finally asked. Do-hyun looked out the window at the shrinking jungle below. Because you were not like the others. You questioned. You doubted. That means you can change. Veka was silent for a moment. What are humans really? Everyone says you are primitive, weak. But I saw what you did down there. You moved like them. You thought like them. The Kira accepted you as one of their own. How? Do-hyun smiled, but there was sadness in it. Humans are strange creatures, he said. Long ago, we were weak. We had no claws, no fangs, no armor. Every predator on our planet was stronger than us. Then how did you survive? We became the predators. Do-hyun turned to face Veka. We looked at wolves and thought they would make good friends. We looked at horses and thought they could carry us into battle. We did not just survive. We adapted, we connected, and when we had to, we hunted. Veka stared at him with new eyes. The coalition underestimates you. Yes, and that is their mistake. The ship was chaos when they docked. Officers ran through the corridors. Alarms blared. Yuna pushed through the crowd and threw her arms around Do-hyun. Tears streaming down her face. I thought you were dead, she said. I thought I would never see you again. I am hard to kill, Do-hyun said. The mountains taught me that. Later, when the chaos had settled, Do-hyun sat alone in his quarters. The Kira fang lay on the table before him, its blue markings glowing softly in the dim light. Outside the viewport, Valdris was shrinking into the distance, becoming just another star among millions. But Do-hyun knew he would return. The pack remembered its own. A message arrived on his console. The coalition had received his report. Analysts across a dozen species were reading his words, trying to understand what had happened on that jungle world. His final line was spreading through the network like fire. The Kira are not monsters, they are hunters, and they recognized us because we are the same. Already, the questions were starting. What did this mean for the coalition? What did this mean for humans? What did this mean for the future? Do-hyun did not have all the answers, but he knew one thing for certain. The galaxy had looked at humans and seen prey. They had seen a young species with soft bodies and short lives. They had seen something to be used and thrown away. They had been wrong. Do-hyun picked up the Kira Fang and held it to the light. In its glow, he saw a new future. A future where humans were not the bottom of the galactic ladder. A future where they stood beside the hunters of the stars as equals, maybe even as family. He placed the Fang around his neck on a simple cord and walked to the observation deck. Stars stretched out before him, endless and cold. But for the first time in his life, Do-hyun did not feel alone. Somewhere out there, the pack was waiting, and Do-hyun was ready to run with them.